that you can find from, this is an actual test of creativity, of creative thinking. The more things that you can think of with a brick, clearly we have some extremely creative people in the audience, the more creative you are. And I think, as does the Naked Physio, that we are amongst the most creative people in the world, because every time we see somebody, we tweak what we do. Am I right? Yeah. There is a problem though, because sometimes we get used to having just a hammer. We get into a bit of a rut, and you know what happens when all you've got is a hammer? You know. And so, yeah, everything gets belted. And so one of the purposes of this session is to prod you. You know, it's after lunch and you get sleepy, and to prod you though, to think a little bit more creatively. Because we know that we can get into a little bit of a rut where everybody gets the same. They get the same exercises, they get the same algorithm, we follow that, they get the same pain education. And I don't think that works. Not as well as perhaps it could do if we got smart. Because metaphors really matter. Because pain's an abstract, and because you and I don't know what my pain is like, and I can't tell what yours is like, we have to use communication, and very often we use metaphors to try and work out what is that person actually on about. So the kinds of metaphors that we use matter. Metaphors assume that there are some similarities between A and B. Metaphors assume that we know this one A and this B is we're not quite so familiar with. So we've talked about the brain as a computer. We have some vague idea of how computers work. It's very vague for some people. And we think that that's how to explain the way that our brains work. Doesn't quite fit, but it gives us a bit of an idea. And we use metaphors fluidly and all day, every day. We don't even realise that we're using metaphor. Let me give you some examples. Did you think of these as metaphors? The ills of society, the local branch of the organisation. So the purpose of metaphor is for us to learn something, to be able to understand a kind of concept. And it's used effortlessly. They just roll off the tongue. Oh my goodness, I just did another one, didn't I? Just rolled off my tongue. And it's thought to be part of how we reason. From the time we're little children to the time we're adults, we keep on using metaphor as a way of understanding the world and making sense of what's going on. These guys are particularly famous. If you ever get a chance to read their book, feel like a little bit of meaty linguistics, cognitive psychology, read Lakoff and Johnson. So we use metaphors, we don't always realise that we're using them. And if we use a metaphor that the person that we're talking with doesn't understand, we can get these crossed messages. And that can happen especially when we're trying to explain something as messy and complicated as pain.